Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Umar Khalid. But today is the 5th of October 2021. These are the stories that we will be talking about during the course of the show. We'll begin with, of course, Pakistan that has raised alarms in the United Nations about the threat that is being posed by India's Hindutva regime as far as regional hegemony that is trying to be acquired by India for international peace and security. Pakistan has said that it will continue with its policy of full spectrum deterrence to counter any potential Indian aggression. That was said by Munir Akram Saab in the United Nations. He also said that the actions of India's fascist regimes were in violations of the UN Security Council resolutions that call for a plebiscite for the people of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. That is going to be our leading segment. Then our second segment, ladies and gentlemen, also concerns the United Nations, where Pakistan has called on the UNHRC, the Human Rights Council of the United Nations, to speak and stand up for the people struggling to free themselves from occupation, including the people of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. They were talking about Vienna Declaration and Program of Action that was being reviewed, and it was during this discussion that Pakistan's ambassador Khalil Hashmi talked about this. In our third segment, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk about a former Facebook employee and whistleblower Frances Hogan, who has said that Facebook has put profit before reining in hate speech and has likened Facebook to tobacco companies. At the same time, as we very well know, all of us know, for a couple of hours starting from last evening, Facebook, WhatsApp and Instagram were down. Nobody all across the world could access these three social media companies, which gave, of course, a slight edge to other companies such as Twitter or such as Telegram. At the same time, Facebook has blamed a network configuration issue for this outage. We'll be talking about this as our third story, and also the whistleblower story. And finally, we'll be talking about US scientists David Julius and Adam Pataputian, who on Monday have won the Nobel Medicine Prize for discoveries on receptors for temperature and touch. And it is going to be this research that both of these have done over a course of, with a difference of around 10 years, is going to be used for research on chronic diseases, especially chronic pain. This is going to be our last story of the day. Let's begin with our first story, and that concerns the alarms that have been raised by Pakistan in the United Nations about the threat that is being posed by India's far-right Hindutva regime. Muhammad Abdullah Gul, senior analyst, joins us online. Abdullah Gul Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. Abdullah Gul Saab, Munir Akram Saab, what he said in the United Nations is nothing new. He has said this in the past as well. We have highlighted what India's far-right regime of BJP is doing under its Hindutva policy. Why isn't the world budging?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much. I think Mr. Munir Akram has raised a very loud voice in UNGA and rightly pointing out the India's nefarious designs for the region and the way they are, collecting the arms and ammunition and spending 73 billion last year just on their, of their budget on the military, and then of course 70% plus deployment on Pakistan's border. I think there is something abyss somewhere and something very fishy going on. And in the garb of China, they are actually trying to target Kashmir and Pakistan especially. They have been targeting Pakistan through other means also by launching the covert operations against Pakistan, by launching Kulbhushan Yadav's network and other, known renowned terrorists of India and presently serving in the military of India. So what the world has to do about it? The world is keeping quiet because they just want that in this region, they know that everyone has turned against United States of America, except there is only one country which is they can count upon, and that is India. They have forgotten about the sacrifices made by Pakistan in the so-called war on terror and so many other accounts. Pakistan has played a very important role, and I would say a pivotal role Pakistan has played in keeping the maintaining the peace and stability of this region. Now, this talking to the security matters and the international affairs, this Ambassador Munir Akram has raised a very important question, leading, actually trying to tell the world that you better harness India at this time. If India is to be harnessed, if India is allowed to do whatever they are trying to do, or they have been already doing, then this means that Pakistan reserves the right for any of their aggression. If the aggression comes from them, then we have the potential, we have the capability, and we have the means to counter their offensive.
That is so
And
true. We have the full means, as has been said by Munir Akram Saab, that full spectrum deterrence is going to be used in case of any such threat or aggression that comes from India. But nevertheless, we've seen this aggression coming from India directly, indirectly, whether it be through social media, whether it be through spies and spy networks. We have Kulbhushan Yadav in our custody as we speak. Then all the dossiers that Pakistan has prepared on India's intentions directly and indirectly of destabilizing Pakistan. What more does the world need, Abdullah Gul Saab?
I said that the world is deliberately, they are deliberately overlooking the issue. They are deliberately trying to, I would say, keeping an eye closed on the matters of when it comes to Indian matters. They just keep their eyes closed. Whether whatever is going on in India, we know that how the human rights violation is being done over there. The not just Muslims alone, but for other communities, they are not safe. Nobody, even the lower class Hindus, are not safe in India. And we have encountered such incidents number of times, not just number of times, but I would say hundreds of times that we have seen and witnessed that how Indians, this nefarious, this notorious government of Narendra Modi, the way they are behaving, this is a terrorist government actually in India. This is not a normal democratic government in India. They are terrorists, and saffron terrorism is being, this logo has been given by CIA to them. They said they are saffron terrorists and RSS and others. But at the same time, I would, like to draw your attention towards that joining the Quad or joining the, getting close to America does not mean that this does not mean that India should be allowed to, to have a free hand in
Agreed.
this region, do whatever they want to do. Pakistan will come up with a befitting response the way we have responded when Indian airplanes attacked and pulled, this Abhinandan. He must not have forgotten what we have, the price for
And the way we treated Abhinandan as a consequence also is something that the world has seen.
Yes, sir. But Mr. Umar Khalid, I would like to draw your attention towards this also that always Pakistan has been very courteous. Pakistan has
Of
been
course.
trying to be a very good neighbor, and Pakistan does not want the nuclear warfare to be triggered over there in this region. And this means this one word, full spectrum deterrence.
Deterrence.
What does this mean? This means that Pakistan is willing to go and cross any lines. So do not underestimate Pakistan. So I would, request once again on, as a PTV is a very important forum of Pakistan and the largest network, the only English news channel which is visible to the rest of the world. I would say that Pakistan is a peaceful country. We have shown, number of times in the days of evacuation from Afghanistan, when the foreign forces were evacuating, it was Pakistan who gave its ground for the evacuation purpose. So it is time for the world to understand the sacrifices of Pakistan, the way we have lost our lives in the war on terror, then the $150 billion worth financial loss we have, and now you are trying to put all the eggs in India's basket. Is it not possible? Whether it was Obama or it is Donald Trump or now it is Mr. Biden, everybody is, India is allowed to purchase weapons from the rest of the world.
Have a
Americans
civil
are
nuclear deal with the US.
the deal with the US, and of course, they are going to build F-16s over there in India. What does this mean? This means something, and getting Rafale jets and then S-400 missiles. What are they trying to do? So we are not, it's not that we are closing our eyes on each and every act of India. We know what their designs are, but it is just that I think Ambassador said very rightly, telling the world that if this is going to be the situation, then Pakistan will give a befitting response, a response which world will remember. And India will remember too. Whenever India
Of
crossed
course.
the lines of Pakistan's, boundaries, India has got the befitting response. But deploying, making this whole Indian Ocean nuclearized by deploying anti-ship missiles, by deploying, ballistic missiles, surface to surface missiles, surface to air, and this then sea to surface missile. What is this going on? So it we are we know that China, Pakistan, this is a threat to India, but at the same time, Pakistan and China, and then of course they have completely been, I would say that, disillusioned after a horrible defeat in Afghanistan, after getting closed all their consulates over there, after what the investment made by them, $4.2 billion, and nothing came out of it. Those who they invested, they have left the country. So they believe that it is Pakistan who is to be blamed for each and every, I would say, the flaw within the
Pakistan is made to be the scapegoat. This is what I have to say if I had to say it in one phrase.
yes,
But I'll refer again, Gulsab, to one part of the statement by Mr. Munir Akram. He said, to camouflage its crimes, India has resorted to the world's most notorious disinformation campaign. Let's talk a little bit about the disinformation as well. Apart from the destability that it is trying to manufacture or create in Pakistan externally, internally, there's also the online disinformation campaign, whether it be through their online media, whether it be through the EO Disinfolab report, whether it be of late you've seen how France 24 also unveiled what India has had propagated as news that came out to be fake news of what happened in Panjshir. Then of course putting out Pakistani film actors and stating that they were Pakistani soldiers in Afghanistan, and the list goes on and on. The 5th floor of Serena Hotel in Kabul, in Arnab Goswami's show. How do you feel the world needs to react to this disinformation campaign, as has been highlighted by Munir Akram Saab?
well, I would say yes. They are trying to, take the camouflage against all the heinous crimes what they are doing inside India. India, whenever see the India's structure, we must understand. There are some 29,000 different sects in India. We, talk about our 72. So there are the one who worship elephant does not worship the snake. So it is completely, and then their marriages, etc., traditions, everything is different. So it is very difficult to keep India intact. So whenever it comes to their nationalism, so they try that every time they put the blame on Pakistan, their arch rival, and they believe that behind every or wrong thing in India, it is Pakistan intelligence agency or it is Pakistan. This means how much fear they have from Pakistan, a small country, but they do fear from Pakistan. This means that Pakistan is something very, very important for India. And definitely, whatever they have done in Afghanistan and Panjshir, like you have talked, or the Disinfo Lab, or the, so many other places like Arnab Goswami. I was talking to, very interestingly, I was talking to Indian, some of the delegates over here in Islamabad. And he said that we are sick and tired of Mr. Arnab Goswami, that it is Goswami and people like him who does not want Pakistan-India relation to be strengthened or to become at peace. And these are fake people, and we are sick and tired of him. And Mr. Gul, you can take them to Pakistan. I said, no, you should join with them. We do not want such crap of India to be, welcomed in Pakistan. So people like them, but at the same time, the state-sponsored mechanism which is against Pakistan, which is completely baseless, and there is no truth in it. I do not
Of
know
course.
from where they fabricate such stories. Hats off to them. It's the world is in a real world. It is not now. The world is a global village. Now you cannot fabricate stories like Bollywood film. This is not a
Of
Bollywood film
course.
going on. It is
But
a
they have all their
reality.
films that target Pakistan directly or indirectly. You know that very well, Gul Saab.
And it is not one just Indian hero of some fanatic movie where he just make sure that the whole army is destroyed by one man. So this is the reality, and in reality, whether it is 1965 or whether it is Kargil or whether it is 1971, whatever happened, but that's a debatable thing. But still, I
All right,
believe.
now, Gul Saab, let's talk about military deployment. Now, Munir Akram Saab, while he was addressing the UN, also said, and I quote, India has nuclearized the Indian Ocean, deployed anti-ballistic missile systems, acquired anti-satellite weapons, increased the range of sophistication of all its delivery systems. And all these states that provide India with these equipment should know that 70% of India's weaponry and forces are deployed against Pakistan. These countries that supply India with these weapons that it is deploying, as Munir Akram has said, quote unquote, in the Indian Ocean, why are they doing so? I mean, we understand that there are certain forces in the West that do not like China to strengthen, as it is strengthening itself by every day. But why? Why are you jeopardizing the entire security of this region and the world through the deployment of these systems and selling such systems to India?
I think they are miscalculating. General Vipin Rawat and his aides. I think they are miscalculating. They do not understand that it's not going to be very easy. If again, I have to revert back to Mr. Munir Akram saying full spectrum deterrence. This means everything: conventional, non-conventional. Please mind it: conventional, non-conventional. We will not spare you. If you come to Pakistan, either you come to Pakistan or you just keep quiet, you just shut up, because by just making false and tall claims does not, show your superiority. We are equal to you. We are a nuclear country, Alhamdulillah, and Pakistan has shown the nation, the armed forces, the government, they have, and the media, of course, they have shown the resilience against any aggression in the past, and we are willing to show this aggression, this resilience again. We are a united country, Alhamdulillah. Under Pakistani flag, we are one nation. But mind it, do not underestimate Pakistan armed forces. They have defeated what the world, entire, world, 48 countries were unable to defeat the terrorism in Afghanistan. We have been, we booted out that from Pakistan. But this does not mean, and we are a trained army. Alhamdulillah, the superiority of Pakistan armed forces are much stronger than anyone. For past 2 years, we were supposed to be the number one armed forces in the world. If you remember, Mr. Umar Khalid, those exercises were carried on by 149 countries in United Kingdom, and what it turned out to be, Pakistan stood number one, Alhamdulillah. So,
all right.
Pakistan,
Now, final question, Abdullah Gul Saab, we're a bit short of time, but I'd like to ask you nevertheless. Munir Akram Saab also said peace and stability in South Asia can be achieved through the resolution of disputes between Pakistan and India. And he said Pakistan's proposal for a strategic restraint regime in South Asia remains on the table. Will India ever respond, or India is in no interest to respond to any of that?
For the time being, I think India is not in a mood to respond to any of this, because they have got the backing of the West and they believe that the Americans are on their side. But I think they are wrong completely, because America has not lost completely, their interest in this region. They will come as friends to Pakistan once again. The strategies, they keep on changing. So there was a strategy at one time. Pakistan was the strategic partner as well. So strategy changed, and very soon the strategy will gonna change over there with India too. We have enjoyed 7 decades of American friendship, and what we have gained, we all know as a nation. So let's India this time, India enjoy the friendship of Americans, and they will know that they will ditch them at a time when they will require them most. But considering Pakistan a weaker country, or Pakistan with not responding with any conventional or non-conventional, I think this will be a nightmare for India. If they do not trust my statement, then they better try it. Once they will try it, they will remember the tea they enjoyed back on 26th of 27th.
Wasn't it
February.
fantastic? Wasn't it fantastic, Mohammad Abdullah Gul Saab? Thank you very much to have joined us. Senior analyst Mohammad Abdullah Gul talking to us about, of course, Munir Akram's statements at the United Nations calling for full spectrum deterrence in case there are more threats coming from India. Let's go to our second statement and second segment, ladies and gentlemen, that concerns also the United Nations, where Ambassador Khalil Hashmi, while talking to the United Nations Human Rights Council, asked for them to speak up and stand up for the people who are struggling to free themselves from occupation, including the people of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. More in the following report.
The brutal occupation of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir has rendered the heaven-like valley into 21st century concentration camp. The flagrant violations of human rights, gory war crimes and naked aggression in broad daylight has unraveled genocidal plan of Hindutva despotism of BJP, reaffirming its enduring commitment to freedom movement of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistan has persistently pressed the United Nations Human Rights Council, whole regional pariah India, accountable for its callous disregard of international laws. Upping the ante of its diplomatic offensive, Ambassador Khalil Hashmi, the permanent representative of Pakistan to the UN office in Geneva, emphasized that human rights situation in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir had gone from bad to worse following India's annexation of the disputed territory on the 5th of August 2019. Earlier, in an attempt to expose the shocking cruel face of Indian barbarism, Pakistan shared a comprehensive dossier on war crimes in the beleaguered valley. The 131-page dossier contains reports of 32 human rights watchdogs and 14 reports by Pakistan, featuring incriminating evidence of extrajudicial killings through fake encounters and false flag operations by the Indian Army. While intimating the world about Indian destabilizing designs, Pakistan debunked in the United Nations the imperial ambitions of India's fundamentalist Hindutva regime in its quest for regional hegemony. The military obsession of fascist Indian regime posed a blatant threat to international peace and security, and its perpetration of brutal reign of terror and oppression on the Kashmiri people is just one precedent. Pakistan has periodically provided irrefutable evidence of Indian state-sponsored terrorism against Pakistan and other neighbours. An indifference of international community to Indian excesses exposed sheer duplicity of the world powers.
I'll talk more about this. We've been joined by Dr. Waleed Rasool. He's a Kashmiri leader. Thank you very much, Dr. Saab, to have joined us. Dr. Saab, how important do you feel is this statement by Ambassador Khalil as far as United Nations Human Rights Council is concerned? And how important it is to continue to highlight these atrocities, that these crimes that are being committed by the Indian government in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir? All right, there is some kind of a technical issue with Dr. Waleed Rasool, due to which we cannot hear him properly. We're trying to resolve that. In the meantime, Pakistan has called on the United Nations Human Rights Council to speak and stand up for the people struggling to free themselves from occupation, and that includes the people of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Ambassador Khalil Hashmi, the permanent representative of Pakistan in Geneva, while speaking in the 47-member United Nations Human Rights Council, said that the permanent representative the human rights situation in the Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir has gone from bad to worse since the 5th of August 2019, abrogation of Articles 370 and 35A. He was, of course, talking during a debate during which the implementation of the Vienna Declaration and the program of action was being reviewed. He pointed out that these, of course, program of action, this declaration, and the provisions of the Vienna Declaration and program of action are unequivocal that foreign occupation was a systemic obstacle to the realization and the enjoyment of the basic rights by the people who are struggling to free themselves from these occupations in different parts of the world, and that of course includes in illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. We also know, as we've seen in the report, that the government also shared a dossier on the war crimes in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir that was shared by 3 ministers of our government, and the detail with facts and figures on what kinds of crimes are being perpetrated by the Indian government in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Dr. Waleed Rasool, can you hear us?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful, wonderful. Dr. Saab, tell us, how important do you feel? Pakistan has been continuously talking about Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, what India has been perpetrating in that region. And this continuous talk about these crimes that India is perpetrating in the region, how important is Pakistan's stance in your point of view?
I think the people who are aggressive. This is a proper route and proper platform to put our pain across where it can be seen and dealt with. Pakistan took an appropriate and right step and knocked the right platform with the concrete evidence and what I can say academically. This report contains 113 references and only 12 references are quoted from the Pakistani sources and remaining references are from Indian source, from international media source, from human rights organization source, and I think it is an prima facie evidence that UNHCR and the credible international human rights organization shall take the cognizance upon that. And you might be we are having talking repeatedly and continuously that India has a lot to hide, and that this report tells us, and this report conveys the message to international community that our demand that there should be an independent commission shall be allowed to visit Indian occupied Kashmir to take the cognizance of the situation on the ground. And this
But Dr.
report
Munir
can
Rasool, this situation
verify
on the
that.
ground, will India ever let the United Nations or the UNHRC go to that region to ascertain what is the real situation?
Yes, India will create hurdle, but the Indian scholars within the Indian who have a highest position in Indian equivalence of the power, particularly from the academic and research side, the Ashoka University had recently talked to have a conversation with Karan Thapa that he says that India is no more democracy. Number one. Number two, the international standards say that India is a selective democracy now. Number three, he says that India has fulfilled all five rules, which are an evidence that now she is a fascist state. And now, when there is a voice within the Indian circles, India cannot sustain to protect herself under the cover of the democracy, which is her international outlook powered by her propaganda. Number four, that the Pakistan had now enough evidences which can be provided as a prima facie evidence against India. There are some voices of the Indian journalists, their brigadiers, their colonials, and also the majors and the lower rank officers of the captains. They cannot deny. But
Of course.
same was the denial from the Hitler in World War II. But Hitler didn't sustain it for long hour. So we are working towards the right direction, and we have to keep the people, the masses who are the victim of Indian aggression on the board, and we shall collect evidences against India to put them on the
Dr. Saab, collecting
international
evidence
radar.
against India is one thing. Using that evidence by the West, by international bodies such as the United Nations Human Rights Council, to give the right to the people of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir that are striving for a struggle to free themselves from the Indian rule, and of course get themselves the right to ascertain, to decide what they want to do with their territory, that is Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. When and how can we see that happen? We see what the BJP government is doing, disenfranchising the people of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. Also the property, natural resources, lands now are being doled out to non-Kashmiris. We know that. And so many, residential permits have been given to the non-Kashmiris, and the list goes on. When and how can this happen? When and how can change happen?
But sab, this is a dispute between a most powerful state who promotes herself a biggest democracy and the people who have no international support, and they have to struggle for that, and they are struggling with the support of Pakistan. Number one. Number two, slowly and gradually, when you seek this you are seeking the support of even small nations. Recently, you have seen that a small state in United Nations, uh, when there was a 1 minute silence upon the people who were killed during the world Jews killed during the World War II, a member from the
Cuba.
small city stood up
Cuba.
and she told that why not have a silence for the Palestinian people killed
And there
during
was a
the
silence for the Palestinian people
and
as well.
number two, you have recently seen in the previous years, Rohingya was put forward by a small African country, and there was a prema. We have to continue with working with the small nations, with the NGOs, non-government organization who have ECOSOC status in United Nations Human Rights Commission, and we shall share this report with these all human rights groups besides the states. Now we have to move the support from those all human rights bodies to make it configurated for the in the United Nations General Assembly. And you have yourself seen, you have yourself put forth so many programs that Malaysia, Turkey, China supported us, UNGA, and now I was expecting that this number shall be increased. And number fifth, the important thing is that you know that the Indian military budget is $7.2 billion, and they are investing at least $10 billion to launch a propaganda against India and our other institutions. So we have a tussle. It is a tussle between a most this uncredible democracy having the economic economic backing and the state which is struggling for the right of self-determination for the Kashmiri people. Now, the United Nations, the masses of Kashmir, the Pakistan, and few countries are on the board. And I hope that this number will increase, and with the continuous struggle, the cost paid by the people of Indian illegal occupied Kashmir, despite the gravity of mayhem from Indian side, have touched all limits, but they are continuing that struggle, and the people within the India, the people within the Kashmir, they say that this stony silence is something which can burst at any time, and India cannot
Now,
handle it.
Ambassador Khalil Hashmi Saab, Dr. Waleed Saab, Ambassador Khalil Hashmi also, while talking to the United Nations Human Rights Council, said, and I quote, the ultimate aim of India's illegal step is to make this Kashmiri majority into a minority in their own homeland to prevent them from exercising their right to self-determination. That has been their, their reasoning, their whole determinations, not since now, but since so many years. Will they succeed?
Yes, I have also presented a research paper to the OIC committee in the Kashmir Committee of Joint Committee of Kashmir Parliament, and that was a comprehensive document. This quantitative document presented to OIC members, and also there is an apprehension that they are grabbing the land which are controlled by Indian forces. They are carrying so many illegal steps in post 5th August 2019 scenario. So this the occupant, the aggressor will continue her aggression, and it is her policy. It is why that you are recently seeing that they are not only committing the crime in Indian occupied Kashmir, they have increased, they have stretched this canvas to the minorities of the India also. So
All
this
right, finally, Dr.
constituency
Waleed
and
Rasool Sahab, finally.
aggressor
Now,
is
Ambassador
rely
Khalil Hashmi,
on hard power.
sorry for
This
interrupting you.
constituency
But Ambassador Khalil Hashmi Saab also said that we call on India to comply with its obligations again, under the international laws, to reverse its illegal actions taken since August 2019 and uphold the fundamental rights of the Kashmiri people. Possibility or not possibility for India to accept this demand by Pakistan?
they have no any other option because the hard power didn't work in Indian occupied Kashmir. Despite, I already requested to, despite they have raised the intensity and the gravity of the Mayam to the level where they think that the masses, majority of the people may be silently accepting the post 5th August position, but sir, that doesn't work. It was not also accepted by majority of international community. Definitely, they have to accept the human right, the basic human right, that is the right to self-determination in the near future, and they have no any other option. But I
Okay.
know that Indian sole policy is to gain the time and keep her aggression continued. But we will keep knocking, and the Pakistan had took the right step. We will keep knocking to any and every door where our voice can be heard and dealt with.
Exactly, exactly. Thank you very much, Dr. Waleed Rasool Saab, Kashmiri leader. And Pakistan, as he said, that will continue to knock on every international door to talk about and to highlight the atrocities that are being committed by India, so that the pressure mounts on India and it reverses its illegal laws that have been put into place since August 2019, and also give the right to the people of Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir to decide what they want to do with their land. Let's go to our third segment, ladies and gentlemen. That concerns, of course, social media. We've all seen it since last evening. Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram were down. We could not update our statuses. We could not listen or read the latest updates. Facebook says there was a certain outage which resulted in that, and a couple of hours happened before all of these services were resumed. At the same time, there is also this huge issue of a whistleblower, a Facebook whistleblower, that compares Facebook to the tobacco companies. More in the following report.
Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram underwent sudden outage worldwide, leaving behind existential questions regarding role of social media in our lives. Deciphering the probable causes of unprecedented outage, Facebook Vice President of Infrastructure Santosh Janardhan noted that configuration changes on the backbone routers that coordinate network traffic between data centers prompted technical issues that interrupted the communication. Probably the faulty configuration change had cascading impact that halted entire communications setup and thus impeding the company's 3.5 billion users from accessing its social media and messaging services such as WhatsApp, Instagram, and Messenger. According to several Facebook employees, the outage might have been caused by an internal mistake in how internet traffic is routed to its systems. In an attempt to figure out other possible causes of global outage, security experts have cautioned that an inadvertent mistake or sabotage by an insider were both plausible. As netizens scrambled towards other competing apps such as Twitter and TikTok, shares of Facebook plummeted 4.9%, company's biggest daily drop since last November. The global outage inflicted second deadly blow to the social media giant after jolted by a whistleblower, former Facebook employee Frances Haugen, who alleged that the company deliberately prioritizes profit over gatekeeping hate speech and misinformation.
Now, also let's talk about the Facebook whistleblower, of course, who's a former Facebook employee, Frances Haugen, who is expected to tell US Congress today, on Tuesday, that the company faces little oversight. And she has likened the social media giant to tobacco companies that for decades have denied that smoking damaged health. Of course, this is a testimony that has been obtained by a leading news agency, Reuters. And and of course, there are a lot of arguments that this Facebook whistleblower has put forward as far as the way Facebook has impacted the mental health, how the Facebook also impacted certain events that happened in the United States of America, to which there has been a reaction that has come, and Facebook has also reacted in saying that all of this is untrue and that Facebook policies remain within certain moral grounds. Nevertheless, time will tell how the Facebook whistleblowers allegations bore through to this US Senate as well, and how the US government reacts to all of that. And let's come to our final story. That is about a US pair of scientists, David Julius and Ardem Patapoutlian, who on Monday have won the Nobel Medicine Prize for discoveries on receptors for temperature and touch. Now, these two researchers were conducted independently of each other in the 1990s and the 2000s, 10 years of difference nevertheless, and this was to develop treatments for a wide range of diseases and conditions that include chronic pain. And this research is going to be used now by the different leading companies to find out cures for chronic pain, for other such diseases that impact humans of all sizes and all ages. Of course, both of these now are proud recipients of the Nobel Prize, and we wish them all the very best. And we want to see more and more research like this happening that will make change and impact the lives of our people across the world. Change and happiness, and of course the resolution of all our diseases that needs to happen for our society to be a happy place once again. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new segments and stories that impact us, you and Pakistan. Stay safe, follow the SOPs and get yourselves vaccinated. Allah Hafiz.